So, I want to speak about being an influencer, right? These days you hear people being asked, "Are you an influencer?" And then they say no, as in being an influencer is something bad, right? Not a real job or something like that. But actually, we are all influencers. Like it or not, we are all influencers. An influencer is somebody that influences another, right? And we are constantly influencing one another because even if you don't speak, you communicate, right? We all know that the majority of our speaking is non-verbal speaking, right? Non-verbal communication. It's the majority of our communication. So even if you don't speak, you have communicated. Even if you didn't communicate an opinion, you communicated that you don't have an opinion, or you that you're hiding an opinion, right? That you're maybe fearful of expressing your opinion. We constantly express, we constantly communicate, like it or not. There is no hiding from it. Actually, you can run away, but you cannot hide for a long time. We constantly communicate and therefore influence one another. And so everybody is an influencer. And so now it's just a question of what kind of influencer are you? What are you communicating to the people? Are you influencing them to be good or bad? Are you influencing them to accept themselves, come to their power, and bring unity to the world? Or are you influencing them to be selfish, weak, deceptive, manipulative, and bring more destruction to the planet? This is it. These are the extremes of the spectrum, right? Some people combine even both, right? People are still lost. People maybe influence, speak, communicate of the good things, of the things that they benefit, but from the things that they don't benefit, they don't influence in a good way. They influence them in a bad way, right? So people constantly communicate and influence from the level of safety that they are in, where they feel comfortable and safe. So to the degree of the fear that they have processed, right? Because somebody that has processed their whole fear, their whole resistance from the self, from their true self, from the soul, from God, from the life force that's coming from God, those that live resistantless to God, to themselves, to life, those only influence and communicate to people, guiding them into unity, to God, to love, right? And the people that are still fearful, resistant, to whatever kind of degree, they communicate that, right? Still distortion and not truth. Still deceptiveness and not innocence. That which you are, this is what you give, right? To the degree that you know yourself, this is how you influence others. This is how it is. So I speak about this topic because I've heard adult people, 50, 60 years old people, being a father, a parent, I've heard them speak that we shouldn't be giving advice to people, right? That people should just, through their own experience, find what is good and what is bad for them, right? And that actually giving advice is bad because people then never learn from their own experience. And there is some truth to that, but actually in the entirety it's false. if you look at it from afar as the whole picture, it's false. And I will say why. Because this planet is traumatized. This planet is traumatized, and people are already from the start, they are deceived and harmed and unconscious, and then they influence from that. And because this system is set up in a way where people are actually not given truth and resolvement, they continue being like that their whole life, and to some degree accepting themselves as they are, being fine with it, but actually being fine with distortion because they didn't go all the way in the acceptance of themselves. So they've normalized and accepting distortion, half truth, which is a lie, which is just a lie, right? And so then people being like that and then being influenced from the same kind of people are then just perpetuating falseness, deceptiveness, lies, right? And how are we ever to evolve to harmony if we are being like that, influencing from that, making new generation being like that, right? False, deceptive, weak, right? So let's not close our eyes to the fact that there is a hierarchy in evolvement, that there are leaders and there are followers. At some point we all were followers, and then at some point we become leader in any area of life, right? If you are a musician, a carpenter, whatever, a driver of formula or whatever, right? Race cars and these kind of things, it doesn't matter. There is a development of skill, right? There is an evolvement, there is a hierarchy. And so I just wanted to say that there are more mature people and there are less mature people. And so giving advice and influencing, so influencing is happening already by default. So people are already communicating advice with embodiment, right? Because we don't learn by what you speak. We learn, we teach people by how we behave, right? We all know that children don't listen to what parents say, but what parents do, right? So saying we shouldn't be giving advice to people is just delusion, because we are giving advice to people constantly, but maybe not through words, but through action, right? How we are being. So we're constantly giving advice, we're constantly influencing, we're constantly communicating. You cannot deny this. You cannot disprove this. You cannot stop this. So there is now only a question. Again, everything is a tool, right? From what intention are you using this tool? With what kind of intention? Are you being whole and then communicating wholeness? Or are you being disconnected and then teaching, advising, influencing division, right? This is all there is. So instead of saying and being deluded and saying that you shouldn't be advising anybody, you should look in what you are advising, because you are advising people anyway, right? So you should be looking what you are advising, and actually now knowing this fact that you are advising, communicating, influencing people anyway, you should now be very aware, very responsible and mature about it by becoming responsible and mature human beings, so you can influence them into being like that, right? If you love somebody, right? If you love somebody, if you love yourself, then you love somebody, and if you love somebody, you want that for them, right? You want to protect them from the harm, right? You want for them to be balanced. You want from them to be powerful, sovereign, right? You want for them to face life as it is and continue evolving through their own experience, right? You don't want to take that from them by being immature and influencing them, teaching them how to be immature, right? If you want for them to evolve through their own experience, then you have to be an embodiment of evolvement, and then allowing them to just see this that as an image in the future, and allowing them to go through their own experience to come to that. And along the way you can even talk with them, right? It's not needed, and being the embodiment of it, it's what is important, what is most important. To be influencing, communicating, advising people from a place of embodiment of their humanness, embodiment of their soul, embodiment of God, right? A direct experience of God, and just being a testimony in their life that this is possible. And now they have to step in their own way anyway, in their own steps, walking their own path anyway to come to that, right? You cannot do this for them. So this is just a bunch of delusion that people say that you shouldn't be advising because you are then taking from them their own experience of life, because and the only experience is a true teacher, right? This actually cannot happen. You are constantly communicating. We cannot stop this. You're constantly influencing somebody, like it or not, and people can only come to the place of evolvement through their own experience, through their own body embodiment, right? This is what embodiment means. This is how you come to integrity, by integrating in your body the disowned parts of yourself. So you can only come to embodiment through your own body, through your own experience. So you cannot take this away from anybody, because to evolvement you only come through your own experience. So this cannot be taken even away. You're constantly influencing, so we can't control life. So the only thing you can do is now be aware of all of this and think, what kind of influence do you want to be? If you love them, if you love yourself, then you love them, right? And so if they are your children and you love them, you want to be the best example you can be. Not from the head, but from the heart, from the openness of heart, where you are accepting life force as it is and proving to yourself and to God your own worth of being worthy, of being full of life, of being resilient, of being capable of taking life as it is by facing it in the moment, every moment as it is, and proving to yourself that you're worthy of a full life that's full of beauty, magic, miracles, gifts, embodying all of that, being an example, a testimony that this is possible. So this is what you should be engaging in, involving yourself with, if you want the best for people. Not saying that you shouldn't be influencing because they need their own experience, because you don't control that. We are already influencing, like it or not, and people can only evolve through their own experience. You cannot evolve by not having embodiment, because evolvement is embodiment, embodiment is evolvement. So now the only question is, not being capable of changing these parameters of life, from what intention am now I operating? If I want the best from them, I will be the best representation of that, right? If I love them and I can't change the fact that I'm influencing them, then I have to be the best example. For instance, if I'm a man and she is my daughter, I have to be the man that you would wish for her to have in the future, the best man that you want for her. You have to be that, right? It goes like this for everything. This is what love is. This is what teaching is, from embodiment. Teaching without doing the teaching. Advising without wanting to advise, because we don't control how life is, because God is in control, right? I have just proven that influencing is happening, and that evolvement happens only through direct experience. So God has already set life for us. We are just to use this free will that we have. Either we are going to accept that and influence evolvement, or we are going to reject that and influence division. That's it.